Welcome to Managing Windows Server 2012 Storage and File Systems. I am your instructor, Robert McMillen, and we're using the Inside Out Windows Server 2012 book written by William R. Stanek. Today we are on Part 3, Lab 1, Managing Windows Server 2012 Storage and File Systems. So we're going to discuss Storage Manager, Encrypting File System, TPM, and BitLocker. Under Storage Manager, there's lots of different things to discuss. Here you have the essential storage technologies, configuring storage, MPR and GPT formats, and basic and dynamic disks. Essential storage technologies is sort of a catch-all for all the different types of technologies that Microsoft has to configure storage. There are external drives, internal drives, SATA, eSATA, SCSI, SAS. All these are different technologies that Microsoft uses in order to allow you to attach storage. And recently in 2008, we've added iSCSI to that, although it was available towards the end of 2003 as well. Now, there's lots of different ways to configure storage, but computer management is the one we're going to look at today. And that one, we've gone ahead and added a new storage device, a new hard drive. It's 25 gigabytes, and we're going to walk through configuring that storage. Another thing that Microsoft has recently changed with 2012 is RAID. Now, with the old version, as long as you converted a disk from basic to dynamic, you were able to configure a RAID 5 on the data partition or a mirrored RAID configuration RAID 1. With the new system, it works a little bit differently. We have a way of creating groups of drives together and configuring the redundancy. There are a couple of different formats you can choose when you go to add a new drive. There's the MBR or the GPT. So MBR is good up to 2 terabytes. GPT is good for anything bigger than 2 terabytes. So if you have a 10 terabyte drive you're adding or iSCSI partition, then you'll need to choose GPT. Otherwise, it will partition it up into 5 2 terabyte partitions. So if you want to make it one big partition, you have to configure it as a GPT format. Basic and dynamic disks, if you choose to use the default basic disk, you'll be able to format the drive and use it as you would any other drive. But unless you make it a dynamic disk, you won't be able to use some of the additional features that I'm going to show you under computer management. So we've added our new drive. We're in computer management, and you can see that we have to initialize this drive before we get it to be able to use it, and it automatically checked itself. We can choose the MBR or the GPT. Now this is just a 25 gigabyte partition, so we're going to go ahead and use the master boot record. And we'll click OK, and now we see disk 0 is unallocated. So if we right click on it from here, we can convert it to a dynamic disk or a GPT disk if we want to take advantage of any of those features. We can also take the drive offline, make it unusable. Click on the properties if you'd like, and you can make various different changes as well. So we'll go ahead and right click on the drive and create a new simple volume. Click Next. We're going to choose the entire drive, but we don't have to. If we want, we can partition it into 2 smaller drives. We can assign the drive letter automatically or choose our own, or you can mount it into an empty NTFS folder. So what that means is just, let's say you have your C drive is running out of space, you can mount this partition inside that C drive and move a lot of that data into that partition. That way your C drive will be freed up to continue to run. And you can also tell it to not assign a drive letter if you choose you want to use that for later use or use it for a different purpose. So we'll go ahead and choose the NTFS option and the default information. And you definitely want to do a quick format. If you don't leave that checked, it will take a long time to format it. If you choose to use file and folder compression, you can do that as well. It will almost double the amount of space available, but it will run much slower. Go ahead and click Next and Finish. And there we go. So now we have our 25 gigabyte partition showing up. Here's our E drive. We can double click on it and we can choose Open, and now we can do whatever we want with this partition. If we want, we can go ahead and you can see here that the drive is basic. We can convert to a dynamic disk, And we'll just do disk 0, which is the one we're working on. And we'll go ahead and click Convert. All right, once that conversion is done, it will be done. You will not be able to start installed operating systems from any volume on the disk. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes, we do. So now you see that the drive shows up as a different color. And if we have another drive that shows up as dynamic, we can then turn that into a RAID drive situation if we want. So if we right click, we still have a lot of the different options. We can also shrink the volume should we choose to create a second partition. So if we click shrink, and we'll just go ahead and choose the small amount here to shrink. We can customize that if we want. Now we see two different partitions. We see a 3 GB partition and we see a 21 GB. And from here, we can create another volume, just like we did last time. And now that's the F drive. So we've taken one drive, partitioned it into two partitions. EFS, Encrypting File System. EFS is a product that allows us to encrypt files and folders on the fly. So this does not do the entire hard drive, it just does files and folders that we want to encrypt. So it has to be formatted with the NTFS format, cannot use the FAT format, which we wouldn't use much today anyway. And it also allows you to do key recovery. So key recovery is something that's useful if you forget your password or your keys get corrupt. The administrator can override the keys, create a new set of keys, and then allow you to have access into the system. TPM, or Trusted Platform Module, that's something that's come out in the last 5 or 6 years. Pretty much every server and every laptop and many desktops have the TPM chip that's installed. It's a hardware chip on the motherboard, and it allows you to secure a hard drive using extremely high encryption. You cannot separate the motherboard with that chip on it from the server without backing up the keys and recovering it. So the object of this is if your hard drive gets stolen from your server or your laptop, then the person that stole it cannot access any of that data if it was secured with the Trusted Platform Module and your hard drive was encrypted in its entirety. There is no override, so if you've forgotten the password, you've lost the keys, then there's no way to access that data. So you have to make sure that you have your key backups available in a secure place in case you need them. BitLocker is a little bit different. It can work with your Trusted Platform Module, just like EFS can work with your Trusted Platform Module, where it encrypts just files and folders. BitLocker will encrypt the entire hard drive. You can also do key backup and recovery, just like you can with EFS. And you can do a software-based BitLocker, which is used without the Trusted Platform Module chip, if you don't have that in your computer. Or it will do a hardware-based encryption with the TPM, which is a much higher encryption. It also runs faster because the TPM does the encryption and decryption instead of the software, the operating system, doing it itself. So BitLocker is installed as a role. So if we go back to our server manager, and we click Add Roles and Features, then you can see that BitLocker is going to be an option in that list. So under Features, we now see BitLocker. We can go ahead and click BitLocker Drive Encryption. We can also choose the network option for unlocking BitLocker remotely. And you can choose Next, and Next, and then Install. When it's done, and after the server is rebooted, you can then encrypt the entire hard drive if you'd like, and that will allow you to encrypt all of the contents of it, so if it ever gets stolen, then you are compliant with any privacy laws. So in summary, we discussed Storage Manager, how to manipulate hard drives and data, Encrypting File System, where we can encrypt files and folders, TPM, which is the chip installed on the motherboard, and BitLocker, which encrypts the entire hard drive. Next up is Part 3, Lab 2, Managing File System Types, File Sharing and Security, and Managing Backups and Recovery.